でも今じゃそんなこと忘れて何かから逃げるように毎日見過ごしてた景色は億千万億千万突き去りしきさずはグラビティ君がくれた勇気は億千万億千万過ぎ去りし季節はもうドラマティ
Yes. Yes. Make sure the letters are bright. No. Big and bright, okay? I am talking my name in big, bright neon letters, okay? Yeah. I want them so big and bright that they can be seared in everyone's brains and retinas. You got that? That's right. Yeah. And another thing, if I don't see that statue of me with big protruding muscles pointing to the heavens, put out for all of humanity to see, I'll have your head on a platter, mister. Yeah? Good. All right. Ciao, baby. Oh, hey, everybody. Buzzsaw the Righteous here, just taking care of some business. Pay me no never mind. I gotta say, I'm several videos in, and man, being famous and adored can be pretty exhausting. I mean, 30 minutes or so of video, and I need a break. I'm talking a triple mocha latte, fantastic photo shoot kind of break. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, those other guys, they don't hold a whole candle store compared to my fantastic charisma. And already you come crying to me for another video of my uncontested wisdom? Well, let me tell you something. Fooled you, didn't I? I mean, come on. Do you really think I act like that in real life? Full disclosure, I'm no attention seeker and definitely not the absolute guy you saw just now. But my job today is to show you examples of such guys and give them their due, so power on, everybody. In the grand scheme of things, pride is not necessarily a bad thing. Pride in your family, pride in your accomplishments, pride in your country are all examples of how pride itself can be good for your mental health as well as motivate you to be better and more successful. But like a lot of the sins I've talked about before, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing later on if you let it. In the case of pride, we could get all wrapped up in ourselves and the things we excel at, essentially pushing out loved ones in your life, and we tend to exaggerate our importance and position in such things, leading to a hefty dose of arrogance, or vanity, however you want to call it. We always tend to run into that one person in life who is completely full of themselves and is obnoxious about it to people around us. And often it makes us want to pity him, ignore him completely, or if he's really being a wiseacre, we want to walk over to him and punch him in the face. And it wasn't hard at all to find 10 video game characters who sometimes or often have that punchable facade. Other than the usual rules, I want to stipulate that I want to try to keep away from full-on villains, because their arrogance is a given, though former villains, anti-heroes, and rivals can still count. And I may consider a villain if they fit a certain something that I will get into later. And I won't be so arrogant as to say there won't be any major spoilers in this list because, well, there will be. So, let's dive in and hope this video has caught my good side. You know, with a topic all about arrogant jerks, there's the sense where all you have to do is mention the name of the game and/or franchise, and you basically know who it is. It feels kind of anticlimactic, doesn't it? Oh well. Let's kick this list off with Star Fox. Ah, sweet memories. I remember when I got the first game a long time ago. It was an awesome thing to play. No matter how outdated the graphics are now, I just don't care. I would still play it. And with each new game, I just fell in love with the series more and more, no matter how bad some entries were. And of course, the games introduced us to the one and only Fox McCloud and his crew, the wise veteran Peppy Hare, the overexcited mechanic Slippy Toad, and of course, this blasted bird. Okay, compared to every other entry I will be talking about later, Falco really isn't all too arrogant. Though he is depicted as cocky and brash, he is a loyal friend to Fox and the rest of the crew. His skills as a fighter pilot is second to none and often finds more satisfying routes for Fox to take in his battles against Andross. However, he is on this list because his cockiness can sometimes land him into trouble, and his trademark rebellious attitude has often made him butt heads with others, and he even left Star Fox at times, only to come back much later in a clinch. He often also says things, especially during battle, which has people like me saying, "Dude, what's your problem?" Heck, you want some examples?
I guess I should be thankful. Cat, can't you go bother someone else?
Unbelievable! You're such a basket case!
Nice shooting, fearless leader.
Gee, I've been saved by Fox. How swell.
You know what, Falco? You don't want my help, you do it yourself. Just don't come crying to me if you get shot down like a clay pigeon, you overinflated turkey. So yeah, his cockiness and attitude lands in the number 10 spot, but at times even he knows how to give Fox and friends their deserved due, making him a true friend deep down. Fly high, hotshot. Time to once again jump into the RPG haystack that is Fire Emblem, in order to find the best needle of arrogance. One thing about Fire Emblem I may or may not have mentioned before was the camaraderie shared between each character in each game. Depending on your choices and the people you recruit, you could have people getting along with each other, people getting on each other's nerves, or even people getting married to each other. Fire Emblem always has its thing with waifus, apparently. But as this is the obligatory Pride list, we're looking to find the most obnoxious of the bunch. And while I'm sure that there are a ton of others who fit the bill better, I don't know. Shinon seems to be the one who strikes that chord with me. Depicted in the Tellius saga and a member of the Grail Mercenaries, Shinon is shown to be a masterful archer and sniper without equal, and on a few occasions he is sure to remind you of that fact. He also takes great pride in the fact that working hard can bring the best rewards. Actually, he takes a little too much pride in that. So much, in fact, that he often looks down and sometimes downright despises those who he feels did not earn their place in life, a sentiment he often expresses toward the protagonist Ike. Though he has nothing but respect for Ike's father Grail, he does not share that respect at all with Ike, often stating he'll never be even half the leader his father was, and often berating and mocking him. In fact, he leads the group in disgust when Ike takes over as leader after Grail dies, and ends up working for the bad guys where he can either kill Shinon or put him in his place and recruit him back into the fold. Oh, and did I mention there are beast-human hybrids in the Tellius saga called Lagoose? And Shinon is unabashedly bigoted towards them?
Not okay!
Yet despite his abrasive and often combative demeanor, he is still good friends with Gatry, though is also kind of a jerk towards him too, and acts warmly towards his protege Rolf, upon whom he is teaching the ways of the arrow. Yeah, Shinon is a massive jerk when you first meet him, but if you can take his lip and if you're in need of a powerful archer, he's your guy. Well, let's see here. I looked at Iconoclast, Undertale. Well, time to add another notch to the indie game belt. Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is another indie game masterpiece that has caught a lot of gamers' attentions in recent years. Though it has a gloominess to it that I'm not really fond of, it has a cartoony art style that gives it a certain pizzazz that makes you almost forget how gloomy it is. Almost as if it was an anime Metroidvania directed by Tim Burton. You play as a nameless knight, not the titular Hollow Knight, oddly enough, where you travel through the underground kingdom of Hollownest to save it from a mysterious plague. While you do meet a few interesting characters along the way, none is more noteworthy than the heroic, the enviable Zoot the Mighty. Actually, when you first meet this guy on the way to Green Path, Zoot is in a bit of a pickle. He's in the mandibles of a strange fly-like thing, and you can either leave him to his fate or, you know, do the heroic thing and save his life, I guess. And when you save him, he is less than pleased at your interference in his fight against his prey and threatens you with his life-ender weapon. You run into him a few times after that, and each time always boasting about how he's a knight of great renown, listing off his great and mighty deeds, and how he has absolutely no time for your tomfoolery.
I seriously don't know how you fit your head into that helmet.
He's also always introducing himself as such each and every time you meet him, as if even remembering you is beneath him. Oh, and he also gets himself in trouble again later on in Deep Nest, and if you decide to save him again, he utterly berates you for almost striking him in the darkness with your rusty little nail. Sheesh, if you actually leave this guy behind in your next playthrough, I honestly wouldn't blame you. Then again, if you didn't save him both times, you'd miss this little surprise. You'll meet Zoot again later on in the Coliseum of Fools, and while he's being snooty now, just wait till you actually fight him at the end of the first trial, and... really? Seriously? This is the power of the almighty Zoot? All of that build-up? For this? I think Soundwave from Transformers sums up this guy best with one sentence.
All talk, no shock.
Seriously, this guy cannot hurt you. His Life-Ender sword, it's like...
Oh my god! I'm fighting with cardboard!
Not even colliding with him hurts you. It just shows that his bluster isn't worth the kind of penny you spend in a truck stop gumball machine. At least Falco and Sheenon back up their hype with their own skills. Zoot can't. Not in a real fight. Oh sure, there are a couple other boss fights with what looks like to be Zoot, but those are just characters dreamt up by his one fawning admirer. In other words, not the real McCoy, or Zoot. And at the end, despite his comeuppance, he still thinks of himself as the greatest thing since sliced bread, and even gains the aforementioned admirer, all the while spouting off his many accomplishments. Yeah, when it comes to Zoot the So He Says Mighty, sometimes the best option is to...
Back it up slow. Yeah. Just back it up. Yeah. Back it up. Okay? All you gonna do is we just back it up, okay? That's it. Back it up. That's right. Back it up. Yep. Just back it up. No. Just back it up.
And we're back to Punch-Out! Last time I never got to be in depth with any of the boxers, so let's remedy that. Of course, the thing everyone notices about all of the opponents you fight are the certain ethnic and personal stereotypes that they represent. One such example is Don Flamenco, a handsome Spanish boxer who often charms women with his handsome good looks, his penchant for always having a rose on hand, and his ability to sweep you off the ring with his powerful bullfighter-style hook before you can say, "Ole!" And while he seems like a dead ringer for this list, no one does narcissism better than this guy here.
Are you ready? 'Cause I'm gonna put on a show.
Oh no, he's hot!
Super Macho Man. Just his name alone tells you he was made for this list. In fact, the stereotype he is meant to represent is the American Hollywood celebrity, always seeking the spotlight and never giving any quarter to his opponents. Or anyone else for that matter.
These sunglasses? You can't afford these sunglasses, and get your hands off the ropes.
All in a bid to glorify himself and win the title. However, he does back up his bravado with his own set of boxing skills. He's so good that in every game you see him, you fight him in the World Circuit, the highest circuit in the World Video Boxing Association. Heck, he is even the final boss in a couple of games, so here's your chance to knock him down a few pegs. The title defense mode on the Wii version, however, shows a nice afterthought on what happens when he falls from grace and glory.
Why don't you love me?
Being the glory hound that he is, Macho Man will fight harder to regain his title, though his taunting and even striking a pose during the fights will provide an opening for you to punch his perfect teeth in. He definitely won't look so super and macho after a punishment like that. Speaking of narcissistic Hollywood celebrities, Johnny Cage.
We are sexy. We are sexy. This is ridiculous.
Oh, there was absolutely no way I was leaving Johnny Cage off of this list. Like with Falco and Sheen on, Johnny Cage can easily back up his bravado with his sheer and unmatchable skill. And he definitely outranks Super Macho Man when it comes to being the stereotypical pompous Hollywood actor. In the earlier games, his acting career was struggling, with critics always saying he was too much of an actor who always let the stuntmen do all the work, and like Zote the Mighty, enters the Mortal Kombat tournament in the hopes that he could prove to the world his skills as a fighter. However, unlike Zote, he really does prove his worth, and from then on, balances his life as an actor along with being a protector of Earthrealm. Only once in the earlier games does he exhibit his superstar arrogance, and that is his ending in Mortal Kombat 4, and honestly, you should have just thanked the Academy and called it a day.
Ow! Okay, now I'm mad. Hey, come on! Quit it! Ow! I saw that, Arnold! Hey, cut it out!
The real spotlight, however, is in the reboot trilogy. Mortal Kombat 9 shows off just how much of a showboat he was back in the good old days.
And I'm taking you down, I'm taking you down, I'm taking you out, I'm taking you out, and I'm taking you out for dinner.
But thanks to Raiden messing with the flow of time, things turn out differently for Johnny. He actually grows up a little, turns from being an actor to being a member of the Special Forces, and even marries Sonya and has a kid. And while the two eventually divorce, in an even greater shock to our systems, Johnny is actually the responsible parent, berating Sonya for leaving the two of them for her Special Forces work. So, yeah, he has a serious attitude change in the reboot, though he still has that brand of humor that gets on everyone's nerves from time to time. But the best thing ever, the thing that cements Johnny's place on this list, is Mortal Kombat 11, where he actually takes his younger self to the School of Hard Knocks, and, man, the brief interaction between the two is priceless beyond reason.
Dad always said, hungry people eat lunch, humble people serve it. Dad was an asshole. Hollywood made us an even bigger one.
He may not have won any gold statuette, but he can have the number 6 spot. And if you still think he doesn't deserve to be here, 4 words. Not in the face.
Oh, that's freaky like Friday. The shot our face, Johnny. The shot our face. He's gonna get us killed.
Yep, that did it. He wins, hands down, debate's over, next entry. Okay, so we talked about 2 guys who walk the walk and talk the talk with a little too much swagger. You got 1 guy on a quest for glory who has no skill whatsoever, and 2 celebrities you can actually punch in the face and not feel bad about it. So I think for number 5, why not someone that sort of combines all 3 tropes? And for this one, we are visiting the universe of a certain Lombax and his mechanical buddy. You know who I'm talking about.
Space. It's huge. So huge, in fact, that if you lost your car keys in it, they would be almost impossible to find.
You realize this ship has an ejector seat, right?
Sorry?
Yes, friends, welcome to the world of Ratchet and Clank, where we shall tell the tale of Copernicus Leslie Quark. Yes, that is his actual full name. Just his first appearance alone will tell you how much of an egomaniac he really is, as he fits the stereotype of the celebrity superhero, always seeking the spotlight, always spouting tales of his heroic deeds, and sometimes endorsing and helping to sell a product. The latter of which is Quark's real profession in the first game, as he is working for the main villain of the game, Chairman Drek, and is ordered to kill Ratchet and Clank but fails spectacularly. In the second game, going commando, he goes from being a lackey to a full-on villain, disguising himself as Professor Fizzwidget and duping Ratchet and Clank into stealing a creature called a protopet in order to manufacture a galactic threat. Now, why would a self-professed superhero be doing these bad things, and why did I include him on this list when I said I wanted to avoid straight-up villains? Well, for one thing, I feel it all boils down to motive. Many villains have a lust for power or a need for revenge, among other things, but what is Quark's motivation?
Fortune and glory, kid. Fortune and glory.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of a hero he was before the events of the first game, and any stories he tells is questionable at best. Either way, his goal is to gain money and attention and stage a great heroic comeback. Now, let that sink in. He became the villain to become the hero. Man, what a paradox. In the third entry, Up Your Arsenal, after a bout of amnesia, Quark teams up with Ratchet to fight against a new antagonist of the series, Dr. Nefarious, and seemingly sacrifices his life, only to turn up later having faked his own death and revealed to be a complete and total coward. But after a pep talk from Clank, Quark makes the right choice and flies in to help Ratchet and Clank in the final battle against Nefarious. So in the end, like Falco and Xenon, he helps out the good guys, redeeming himself in the process, and like Johnny Cage, he becomes an ally to our dynamic duo from here on out. Though, like Zote and Super Macho Man, he is still a complete self-absorbed diva. Oh, and I forgot to mention that he went to high school with Dr. Nefarious before he roboticized himself, and he bullied him relentlessly. In other words, Quark bullied Nefarious and later became a hero, only to become someone's lackey, and then later on the villain, only to be a fully redeemed hero, still obsessed with his self-image, and helps Ratchet and Clank stop Nefarious, who is now the main villain of the series, only because Quark bullied him. Wrap your head around that hot mess. Nowadays, though he's still an egomaniac and still tries to hog the spotlight, he still means well. And it's just funny how he screws it up every time. Captain Quark, the hero we never needed or wanted. We are back to the Zelda series again, and before I announce the joint winners for the number 4 spot, let us first put the spotlight on a couple of honorable mentions. First, there's Mido from Ocarina of Time. Granted, Link never was a pure-blooded member of the Kokiri race, but while the other Kokiris made Link feel welcome, Mido went out of his way to make Link feel as unwelcome as possible. Though this is less out of pride and more out of jealousy because Saria likes Link better. There's also Scrapper from Skyward Sword, who treats Link as if he's beneath him and only helps him out of respect for Fi, always basically worshipping the air Fi floats in. But I guess at this point, I'm just prolonging the inevitable. Oh, and speaking of Skyward Sword... Oh, hi, Groose! There are a lot of characters on this list that wouldn't make this a list about selfish pride without their inclusion. And Groose definitely is a mandatory addition. Like with Mido, Groose is also about getting the girl, who in this case is Zelda. But Link, of course, is her favorite, and he's not having any of it. He's always trying to make life miserable for Link, including imprisoning his Crimson Loftwing so Link wouldn't be able to participate in the big wing ceremony held at Knight Academy. A plan which, of course, fails miserably. This isn't the last we see of our pernicious pal with the puffy pompadour, though, as later on he falls to the earth along with Link and declares the already found land as... Groose Land. His arrogance is so blatant, it's adorable. But later on, after seeing what Link has to deal with, he gets a major reality check, and after a brief breakdown, actually offers to help Link by beating back the imprisoned with a powerful bomb-throwing platform he dubs the Groosinator.
You gotta be kidding me.
So, Groose gets points for actually shelving his selfish pride and becoming a great ally for the forces of good. And afterwards, he offers the suggestion that this whole ordeal should be remembered as the Legend of Groose! Oh, Groose, you should have a legend named after you, because, man, you're just too charismatic to be forgotten. But he's not our only contender. Yeah, remember I said at the start of this segment that I had joint choices? Yep, Groose isn't hogging the spotlight for himself here. He would have, though, had I not finally gotten around to playing Breath of the Wild. Here, along with the Link and Zelda of that time, we are introduced to the 4 champions, including the restless Rito, Revali. Unlike Groose, or even Mido, Revali's weakness is not crushing on a girl, but the fear of being weak in the eyes of others. Though Revali is the strongest warrior of the Rito tribe, he has no qualms about overemphasizing his skill and importance. In other words, taking his arrogance and rubbing it in people's faces. Heck, he even believes his skills and power over the Divine Beast could topple Calamity Ganon easily, and he definitely has a low opinion of Link. Though he abides by Zelda's choice of Link as the chosen wielder of the Master Sword, he makes no secret his utter displeasure towards Link and often putting him down. Well, that was actually 100 years prior to the start of the game, and an amnesiac Link learns that the champions lost their lives in the battle with Calamity Ganon. Upon reaching the Divine Beast Vamedo and defeating Windblight Ganon, he meets with the spirit of Revali, and even though he's dead, he's still kinda obnoxious. Even stating that he lost his battle with Windblight Ganon because he was winging it. Sheesh, and I thought Falco was the only bird on this list full of hot air. But Revali finally admits his admiration towards Link and offers his help. In spirit. No, literally, in spirit. While Groose is the more iconic choice, Revali deserves his place on this list as well for being arrogant even from beyond the grave. So I decided both characters should share the number 4 spot. They are both definitely legends in their own right, and we love them for that. I think for number 3, instead of just some long, drawn-out essay, how about a song? Maestro? Yo, listen up, here's the story about a little guy that is in a blue world. No! No! All right, fine, be that way. It's Blue from Pokemon. Way to kill the mood there. Oh, hey, look, another mandatory addition. How about that? Groose may have had that laughable machismo that makes him iconic, but he doesn't quite measure up to the absolute obnoxiousness radiated by Pokemon's Gen 1 rival. A rival we often refer to as Blue. Or Gary, if you're a fan of the anime, or any other name if you're that guy. In the first generation Pokemon games, Blue is the rival of Red, the player character, and both are charged by Professor Oak with the task of completing the Pokédex, all the while challenging trainers and gym leaders in their quest to become Pokemon Masters. And true to the nature of any rival seeking fame, Blue just oozes that pure ambitious ego that makes you want to just... Yeah, Blue just loves to rub it in Red's face that he is better than him. And at the start, he gets the Pokemon strongest against your starter to prove that. Or Eevee, if you're playing yellow. From then on, you run into him in several places, almost as if he's always one step ahead of you. All the while getting stronger and having new Pokemon at his disposal, and each time wanting to wipe the floor with you. Heck, you run into him at the Silpco building at Saffron City while Team Rocket has commandeered it, and amidst the hostage crisis, he still insists on battling you. It goes to show that all he cares about is being better than his rival, and he is also a pretty sore loser when you beat him in each battle. But no worries. At the end of it all, when you beat the Elite Four, you prove to the world your skills as a Pokemon. Oh, wait, you're not done yet, as there is one more champion to beat. The one who beat the Elite Four before your arrival and is currently on top of the world. And that fighter is... Blue?!
Well, fry my giblets.
Are you serious?
Is this a joke? That spiky-haired jerk got here before me again? Does he know a lot of shortcuts, or is he friends with Scotty from Star Trek?
Up your shaft.
How the heck does he keep getting ahead of me? Well, once the shock of seeing him as Indigo League champion wears off, it hits you that this is the last battle with Blue. And unlike the previous battles with him, this one is for keeps. Once you beat him, you dethrone him and end his extremely short career as champion, ultimately getting back at him for all the grief he's given you throughout your adventure. This isn't the last you see him, though, as in Gen 2, he takes over for Giovanni as the Viridian City gym leader, though he's still a bit of a troll. But in Gen 5 and Gen 7, where he makes a special appearance, you can tell he's more mature and an all-around better sport, proving that there's always time and room for an arrogant jerk like Blue to grow. Smell you later, dude. Okay, for the last two segments, we're actually going to go into villain territory. Now, I know what I said at the beginning, that I wanted to avoid straight-up villains. But as I have stated in the Captain Quark segment, motivation is key. When you have a character driven by ego and not by a desire for power, money, or revenge, you have the makings of an arrogant jerk whose arrogance goes way beyond that of the previous 8. And these last two are definitely no exception. So, for the runner-up spot, back to Ace Attorney. So many characters in the Ace Attorney franchise could be considered arrogant jerks, or just plain jerks, and in so many interesting ways as well, from the out-of-touch politician to the obsessively proud helicopter mom and,
Kids these days, it's like they can't bother to listen or read anything, even if their stupid lives depended on it. I mean, just the other day, a sign said caution bridge out, and this snot-nosed punk comes up like he's gonna waltz across it and says to me, I'll walk on the end part like he's some kind of gravity-defying comedian. It grinds my gears when people don't take their safety seriously. That's why I do what I do and why I told him if he wants to...
I know how to handle an old bag attack.
Yeah. That. But in the same vein as Blue from Pokemon, we're turning to the celebrated rivals of Ace Attorney, aka the prosecutors. While such prosecutors like Clavier Gavin are just too cool to be a jerk, and Simon Blackquill are just edgy kind of cool, you've got others like Nayuta Sadmati, who embodies the religious type of jerk, or the mysterious Godot, who has a low opinion of Phoenix and likes to sling scalding hot coffee at him when he feels like it. But nothing beats the original duo of prosecutorial perfection, Miles Edgeworth and his foster sister, Franziska von Karma. Honestly, they both deserve an honorable mention here, and I almost chose Franziska for this list, what with her wielding a whip even during court. But then I realized they both wouldn't have been the way they are if not for dear old Dad. Manfred von Karma. Oh boy, where do I even start with this guy? Among all the other prosecutors Phoenix had to face, Manfred von Karma is one of the most brutal. His prosecutorial skill is often revered in the series, hence he is referred to as a king or even as a god among prosecutors. He also has a commanding presence in and out of the courtroom, so much in fact that even the judge is almost wrapped around his finger, and he often boasts about his perfect record of courtroom wins. A record he often goes to extremes to protect no matter who suffers as a result. 15 years prior to the first game, Von Karma crossed paths with Miles Edgeworth's father Gregory, who was a defense attorney involved in a murder case old Manny is prosecuting. In order to win the case, he prevents Gregory from questioning a witness, he uses a falsified autopsy report, and he ultimately coerces the defendant to plead guilty to the crime. The latter, however, was found out by Gregory and used to penalize Von Karma for his perceived recklessness. This places an ugly blemish on his otherwise perfect record, and as expected, he doesn't take it well.
Drama King!
This also provides the stepping off point to what happens next. Still feeling raw about the penalty, Von Karma is soon in the midst of a blackout, during which a gunshot comes from a stopped elevator and hits Von Karma in the shoulder, a pain he would hold on to for over 15 years. When the elevator opens, he finds the unconscious bodies of Gregory, his young son Miles, and a bailiff named Yanni Yogi, and picking up the gun, he aims and fires, killing Gregory and leaving the scene. This starts a chain of events known as the DL6 incident. Yanni Yogi is accused of the murder but then is declared not guilty. Von Karma takes in Miles and raises him alongside Franziska, grooming them as prosecutors and inheriting his desire for perfection. Then 15 years after the murder, Manfred has Yogi kill a man and frame Edgeworth for it, ultimately culminating into Edgeworth standing trial for his own father's murder, and tries to keep Phoenix from learning the truth, even using a stun gun on him and Maya in the middle of the evidence room to do so. All of this, all of it, just to protect his spotless record as well as to seek revenge on Gregory Edgeworth for his perceived slight. Extremes indeed. But he was no match for Phoenix, who kept digging until he found the truth and exposed Von Karma for the villain that he really is, brought down by his own hubris. Von Karma's long drawn-out plot is a real example of pride taken to the highest level, and also a good example of Icarus symbolism. You know, how pride comes before the fall. Von Karma flew too close to the sun and, as a result, crash and burn. Or I guess you could say, Karma finally caught up to Von Karma. Huh? Yeah, I'll just shut up now. Well, we're at number 1, and like with Falco, all that build-up leads to an obvious choice where, once again, all I gotta do is say the name. Earthbound. Hard to believe that a Super Nintendo game made in 1994 would become such a cult classic still talked about today, and also lead to an awareness to the series as a whole. The Earthbound, or Mother series, is an RPG series akin to Final Fantasy that takes place in a more modern setting, more or less dealing with aliens and time travel. What makes it so narratively compelling is that for a series that is cheerful on the outside, it holds more heavy implicit themes like corruption, violence, loss of family members, even post-traumatic stress, all culminating into a fan base that continues to rave about the series as a whole today. And out of all the characters in the series, Arrogance, thy name, is Porky.
That's all, folks.
Wrong Porky! Sheesh, guys, enough with the wrong character puns already. It's Porky Minch. Despite his later descent into villainy, which we'll eventually get into, Porky is definitely another true mandatory addition to this list. And unlike others on this list who are hotshots in their own right, wannabes who were all talk, scene-stealing superstars, and jerks who either fought their way to the top or schemed to keep their place at the top, Porky is just the stereotypical neighborhood bully. In a way, he's kind of like Groose, except dialed to 11. Well, here's the lowdown. In Earthbound, Porky, or Pokey for us Americans, is the neighbor of the protagonist Ness, and almost off the bat he is shown to be cowardly and mischievous. And it is also implied that he lives in an abusive household, though the US version of the game tones that down a bit. After Ness goes off on his adventure, he soon runs afoul of a cult who seemingly worship the color blue, and Porky has apparently fallen in with them as sort of a high priest. After defeating the leader of the cult, Porky apologizes for his behavior and asks Ness if they could be friends, and then taunts you and runs off. Note this scene, as this will be a very important point to examine later. From then on, things just get weirder for Porky. He and his dad later become consultants to the mayor of Foreside, and Porky now has more of a holier-than-thou attitude towards Ness. Porky later flies the coop, and near the end of the game, he time travels 10 years into the past and becomes a servant of Gygus, the main antagonist, who is so incomprehensible and terrifying that it would take forever to talk about it here. And after Gygus' defeat, Porky escapes to another time and later sends a rather mocking letter to Ness. You know, thinking about it now, he's less like Bruce and more like Nelson from The Simpsons. Anyways, on to Mother 3, which takes place years after the events of Earthbound. Here, the new protagonist Lucas and his friends run afoul of the mysterious King P and his pig mask army, whose antics caused the death of Lucas's mother and the subsequent brainwashing of his twin brother Klaus into an emotionless cyborg. Progressing through the game, it becomes apparent that King P is actually Porky, and upon meeting him, you see what constant time travel has done to him. Though he is immortal and unkillable, he is now an uncountable number of years old, so old he is confined to a spider mech for movement. And even then, he still acts like the snotty brat you met back as Ness, with an added goal of taking over the world and destroying anyone who doesn't like him. So, I'm sure you're asking, why put Porky on this list at all, let alone above the likes of Bruce, Blue, and Manfred von Karma? Well, as I have stated before, motivation is key. Throughout both games, Porky goes from being an unpleasant neighbor kid to the priest of a cult, to a mayor's consultant, to a pawn of Gygus, and then the immortal king of an oppressive monarchy. Despite all of this, Porky is still, in terms of maturity, just a kid. A kid who seemingly just wanted to be friends with Ness. Remember the scene I talked about earlier where Porky asks if he and Ness could be friends? It is said that though the US version has him taunting Ness and running off, the original Japanese version implies that Porky was really sincere in his wanting to be friends with Ness. But because Ness is the silent protagonist, Porky took his silence as rejection. From then on, he tried to do bigger and better things, all the while rubbing his success in Ness's face. And in Mother 3, as you travel through New Pork City, you'll find memorabilia from his younger days alongside statues and robot replicas of his younger self. There is a prevailing theory in some places that makes us ask the question, if Ness wasn't silent and accepted Porky's offer of friendship, would he have gone down the dark path he set for himself? Would Porky have cheered Ness on in his fight against Gygus instead of fighting him? And would the events of Mother 3 have happened at all? Throughout it all, it was obvious Porky was driven by one thing: a need for attention, a need to be loved and respected. In a way, it was kind of the driving force behind most of the entries on this list. Think back to the Super Macho Man segment, where at one point he yells,
"Why don't you love me?"
If you really think about it, a need for attention and respect is a strong motivator behind arrogance and egotistical behavior, and everyone I've talked about here definitely fits the bill. Falco and Shinon, though, are well beloved by their friends and teammates despite their obvious obnoxiousness. Zote the Mighty and Super Macho Man also have their own admirers, though they are still complete jerks in the end. Johnny Cage, Captain Quark, Groose, and Rivali all have their ego-deflating moments and become well-to-do allies for the heroes in the end, though still act somewhat like the world revolves around them at times. And Blue fights to the top in a bid to gain respect as a Pokemon master, though subsequent losses lead him to grow up and become more humble in the end. Manfred von Karma, though, resorted to lies, deceit, and even murder, all in a bid to preserve his reputation and perfect record, and is a great example of how too much pride can bring a man down. As for Porky, he's number one because his descent into egomania is actually kind of tragic. And had Ness accepted his friendship, his actions later on might not have happened, and he would have never suffered his final fate at the end of Mother 3. In a bid to escape punishment from the heroes, he seals himself into a device called the Absolutely Safe Capsule, where he is, well, absolutely safe. The heroes can't get to him, but also, he can't get out himself, meaning he is trapped for all eternity. While he seems to be happy about it, can you imagine being able to live forever and be stuck in a capsule with no hope of escape? That, to me, sounds like a fate worse than death itself, and is the ultimate grim fate for one obsessed with attention and glory. Being alone and trapped with no escape, and no admirers to adore you. It goes to show that there's a right way and a wrong way to earning glory and respect, and most of the time, you don't need hundreds of people to admire and befriend you. You just need one. My name is Buzzsaw the Righteous, and while I'm not as popular as other countdown creators out there, I'm very happy with my work and grateful for all the subscribers and likes I get. And I will never knock anyone down just to build myself up. A little humility goes a long way, and as long as you have humility, you don't have to try so hard to gain the respect you need. As far as I'm concerned, you've already earned it. Thanks for watching, and until we meet again, look sharp and stay righteous.
Don't call me sweetie!